Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, September 13th, 2015. I'm really getting back into the character of Neil. I'm really into this whole storyline involving Devon and Hilary, and I really feel like Y&R gave us a good story this week. I've been really perplexed and intrigued by what could possibly be going through Neil's mind, and it almost feels like Y&R gave us a little bit of the best of both worlds. We have been able to see and experience his descent into madness, but this week they gave us a little bit more clarity about what he's actually thinking, and maybe it's not quite as dark as we thought it was initially. Toward the beginning of the week, we learned that Neil had Hilary, he's keeping her back in the boathouse. I mean, for a while I thought, is he in the Caribbean with her? No, he's at the boathouse of the estate, the dream home that he bought for her. That was where he thought to take her, and what sort of seemed like a hostage situation, a revenge situation, really turned into something a little more, I hesitate to say reasonable, but a little more understandable. I mean, at the beginning of the week, he's sitting there over the bed, her IV is starting to run out, and he becomes panicked, thinking, that she's dying, or that if he's not able to get her more fluids, that she is going to die, and that's not what he wants. And it's been such an intriguing journey the entire way, I think, because you didn't really know what he was thinking. I mean, he had this awesome speech toward the beginning of the week talking about how payback is such a powerful medicine, and just sitting there over what he thinks could possibly be Hilary's deathbed, saying, Hilary, I loved you. I wanted to give you everything. I wanted to teach you that love has the power to heal, and instead you ended up teaching me that love has the power to destroy. And in that moment, I really thought, that means, that I sort of interpreted that as Neil, his sanity being destroyed, and his innocence in a way, although he's not that innocent, being destroyed by the affair and everything that Devon and Hilary did to him. And I'm so into Christophe St. John. It was such a great speech. It was well written, it was well delivered, and I just have really been able to dig into this new facet of Neil's character. But at the same time, I'm really happy that Y&R decided to move it along. They gave us a little bit more insight into what he was thinking later in the week, as he started to kind of confess to Hilary that all he really wanted to do was ruin her honeymoon. He wanted to take that video, he wanted to set up Devon, he wanted to take that video, show it to her, and show them that their love wasn't so strong that it couldn't be destroyed. They spent months and months trying to convince Neil that, yes, we betrayed you, but it was because our love was so strong, and Neil just wanted to be able to show them that their relationship is also susceptible to the kind of betrayal that they did to him. And everything else just kind of spiraled out of control for him. He, from Neil's point of view, assuming he's not completely insane and that his soliloquy was him telling the truth, he heard her scream after she ran off, stormed off the cliff, and went down to the beach. I suppose found her lying there unconscious, or somehow rescued her, pulled her out of the water, and brought her to safety. Rather than telling anybody about it, he puts her, in a plane and takes her back to the boathouse, which is, I imagine, some sort of panic move, the only thing he could think to do. But he also didn't know what happened to her. I was really surprised as Neil is talking to Hilary and giving this speech, that he said that he didn't know if Devon was the one that did this. in Neil's mind, oh, maybe I pushed him too far. Maybe, this video that I did, maybe it caused them to argue. Maybe it did cause Devon to do something drastic. I wouldn't want to think that. And even as the week, other little clues throughout the week, he was talking to Devon, sort of undermining Devon's feeling of security with Hilary and that he even knows her at all. Got Devon feeling really guilty about the fact that he would have even let her go on that hike alone. I mean, Neil, I think it's sort of clear in retrospect that Neil maybe did not know what exactly did happen on the cliff. He just knew that he heard her scream, he needed to rescue her, and if anybody else was there and saw the situation, that Neil was even there in the first place, they might think that he was the one that did this. He, in a way, was sort of self-preserving in that moment, deciding, I gotta just try to save her, bring her back to life, and hopefully she'll tell everybody what happened, and also that it wasn't me. So it's such an interesting twist, and I'm so glad that Y&R did not continue to drag that portion of it out. I mean, he could have been crazy. She could have been in a coma for a month, and that's not what happened. So I was very happy about that. The sad thing is that Neil is now in this constant tracks covering mode. Hilary is unconscious in bed. I don't even know how on earth would you even begin to know where to get an IV and how to get the fluid, and I wouldn't know how to put in an IV into a patient if my life depended on it, but somehow Neil knew, and it just so happens that Gwen's sister has come into town. We talked about this new character being introduced several weeks back, and now here she is. We have a new nurse, a new hospital worker who's related to Gwen, and she happens to be able to give Neil a reason to have access to this hospital supply closet, which will help him keep Hilary alive in the boathouse, which is another thing. Like, I didn't know if what Neil was doing was keeping her knocked out or keeping her alive. I mean, I wasn't sure last week at this time how sinister Neil's mind had become. How dark did he go? And so it's kind of nice to know that maybe that we got a little taste of it, but it's not quite as bad as we thought it was going to. Poor Gwen. She's completely caught up in this entire mess of Neil's, and he ends up totally using her, which makes me so sad, in order to get her sister's badge, or to somehow like be able to get in tight with her sister who works at the Genoa City Memorial Hospital. He decides to kind of fake a date with her. I felt bad. Gwen gets together this romantic dinner for Neil. We saw her apartment for the first time, which also tells me that maybe we're going to be seeing more of Gwen, or that this new sister is going to be giving us a lot more than just a 1 or 2 time appearance. The fact that Y&R built a set for Gwen's apartment says that she's going to play a major role, at least one of these 2 women's, and whatever the fallout of all of this is going to be. But Neil shows up at her beautiful apartment, and she's got this romantic dinner for him, and all he can really think about is her sister's name badge, which just so happens to have been left on the table, and he just wants to snag it so he can get back to that hospital supply closet and get everything and anything he can to help Hilary. Is it because, this is a good question, is it because he's worried about Hilary? Is it because he loves Hilary? There's a part of me that wonders if Neil just never really got over the fact that Hilary left him. It's so weird because you would think he would feel so betrayed, more betrayed maybe by her than by Devon, but it almost sort of seems like Hilary is forgivable. Like somehow he understands why she would do what she would do, and that he just never got over loving her. Remember at the top of the mountain, and I think they showed it in a flashback this week, he said to her, payback is a bitch, my love. But he said that, my love. So it's almost like really the crux of what Neil is feeling right now is that lover's betrayal, that his wife betrayed him. And so he's doing everything he can to get hospital supplies, to make sure she doesn't die, and maybe it's for his own sake, maybe it's for her sake. It seems like it's less for Devon's sake than maybe it should be. And it's interesting that Neil would even question whether or not Devon would have actually done this. It's odd to me that anybody would question whether or not Devon actually had done this. Michael and Kane are off in the Virgin Islands trying to both investigate what could have happened to Hilary and hopefully clear Devon's name of any involvement. The problem is Devon decided to offer up some $1 million reward, so people are coming out of the woodwork to offer information and tips about what they saw that night or that day on the trail. And a witness comes forward saying that he saw a man matching Devon's description carrying a woman away from the water, and it immediately makes Michael and Kane doubt that Devon is actually innocent. It's so ridiculous to me. The fact that anyone that knows Devon would think that he would ever hurt Hilary, even in a moment of extreme passion, it's so unthinkable. It's so inconsistent with his character. What's his motive? She found out about his bachelor night indiscretion, so he killed her rather than work it out. It doesn't make any sense. But Michael and Kane doubt him. It causes Lily to doubt him, and Devon kind of sniffs that out from Lily right away, and he ends up showing up down at the hotel with Michael and Kane, and he confronts the witness and says, "Wait a minute, you're saying that you think I did this? Well, take a look at me now. Am I the man you saw on the beach?" Which forces the witness to confess that he actually doesn't think that it was Devon. It doesn't, looking at him in person, doesn't really match the description that he remembered in his mind. The guy who he saw going away from the beach was taller and had more hair. Looks like Neil, really, at the end of the day. Of course, I'm sure that won't be revealed for a little while back, but suddenly, all of a sudden, there are other witnesses that are coming out of the woodwork. This new witness says, "Hey, I saw somebody matching that description loading up a woman in a gurney onto a plane." That might have been some information you might want to come forward with a little bit sooner. The money really helps flush out all of that. I think, so at the end of the week, Devon and Michael and Kane are all still in the Virgin Islands chasing this, any lead having to do with where Hilary might be, when she's actually in Genoa City right under their noses. So everything they're doing right now is a little bit of a red herring, but certainly there are clues there that hopefully will lead them to discovery. The big surprise of the week for me was the fact that Hilary actually wakes up. I thought, since the actress is on maternity leave, I just thought we're going to be seeing her in a coma for weeks to come. I was not expecting her to open up her eyes and realize where she is. I mean, the first shot of her opening her eyes and thinking, "Where am I?" was so good. I like this actress so much now, and it's just, the whole story is so compelling to me, and I felt her fear and confusion and everything when she opens up her eyes. She figures out that she's in that boathouse. She starts to have flashbacks of being there with Neil before he regained his eyesight, which also, by the way, reminded me that Y&R is very, very adept at dragging out a storyline way too long, because Neil had lost his eyesight for way too long. I was so thankful that they didn't decide to do that with Hilary. So she wakes up and she tries to struggle. She tries to fight and tries to get out of there, and she knocks over her IV thing, and she's just not strong enough to be able to go anywhere. But luckily, Neil is able to successfully, it actually worked out quite a bit in Neil's favor. He was able to have sex with Gwen, which I'm sure he does not feel good about, and get her sister's name badge, go to the hospital supply closet and just rake a bunch of IV bags into his briefcase and run back to the boathouse just in time to find her passed out again. Who knows if her condition is worse than it was before. I don't know, she might end up being in a coma for even longer. I hope not, but it's such an interesting twist to me to find out that she was in that house in the first place. This was the place where all of Neil and Hilary's dreams were supposed to come true. There were supposed to be children. There was supposed to be a swing up by the house. They were supposed to renovate the old place. It was Neil trying to give Hilary her dream, but it also had in turn become Hilary giving Neil his dream. Unfortunately, it completely turned into a nightmare for both of them. I'm surprisingly also really happy that the whole thing about the Paragon project ended up not just being a throwaway line here or there. I think YNR is developing that into a full-fledged storyline, and I think it's going to be really good. Apparently, the whole thing with the Paragon project is that it's a virus, and it's now been, I guess, put onto the Newman and Jabot systems. Is that the sense that you guys got? What the Paragon project, what is the virus? What is the intent of the virus? Do you guys have some theories about that, or did I miss something? Because I'm not sure if the Paragon project is intended to take information from the two companies or if it was intended to destroy information inside of the infrastructure of the two companies. You guys have to let me know. It's sort of like YNR's probably doing a crossover with the CSI Cyber show that they have, or the Scorpion, or whatever, all those cybercrime shows that they have. It could be really interesting. I think it totally makes sense that Adam is involved in it. Of course, he is Adam as, in quotes, Gabriel Bingham. The big reveal at the beginning of the week for me was the fact that Ian Ward, although he's involved and we're seeing him as being behind it, he's really more of a partner, and he doesn't know who he's working with. He is having a phone call with Adam, calling him Gabriel, so he obviously doesn't quite know what he's in for either. These two people are just sort of becoming bonded through their mutual hatred for Victor, their mutual desire to destroy him. But I love that Ian Ward is involved. I like seeing him back on my screen. I think he's a really great villain, and I'm excited to see where YNR ends up taking this. I was also surprised that Phyllis and Jack, I think it was Thursday's show, they show up at the Abbott cabin and it's been completely redecorated. I think YNR is all of a sudden spending some money on some sets. They must have got their new budget for the end of the year, and they decided to give Gwen an apartment and redecorate the cabin, which makes complete sense. I mean, I wouldn't have questioned it if they hadn't done it, but now it does make complete sense considering who would ever want to go there again, knowing that a couple people died there and got their bodies stuffed in a closet and there was blood and just all the horror. So I think it's kind of nice that they redecorated the cabin. Should be pretty good. Phyllis and Jack are there trying to reconnect because Jack and Victor have decided to, in quotes, work together to find out what the Paragon project is, who it's targeting, what it's all about. But we all know damn well that they're both stabbing each other in the back at every step along the way. The only person who the only person who doesn't seem to want to verbally accept that is Jack. I'm sure he knows what he's getting into when it comes to Victor, but Ashley and Phyllis have both found out about his little partnership with Victor, and they're having a hard time trusting him. They're having a hard time forgiving him for making deals with the enemy on any level whatsoever. And Jack and Phyllis are at the cabin trying to get over that, trying to not only get over it, but reconnect on their relationship, which has gone through a lot over the past couple of months. Interesting little crossover. Phyllis decides to go for a night walk outside at the cabin, and who does she run into but pure evil Ian Ward sitting out, I mean, just sitting out in the middle of the forest, in the middle of the night. He had a little bug zapper light by him, but he's just sitting on a log, staring up at the stars, and Phyllis stumbles across him. It was so creepy. I mean, this actor, he must have just been born to play this intensely villainous evil role, because he plays it so well. Phyllis comes across him, and he's just got this intense look in his eyes, and I thought, is he gonna hurt her? Is he gonna kidnap her? This is an episode of Dateline waiting to happen. But strangely, surprisingly, Phyllis kind of strikes up a little bit of an odd friendship with him. I mean, Ian's looking up at the stars and waxing sentimental about his wife who just died. I don't know about that. I wanted to ask you guys about that, because do you think that Ian was just trying to make himself more personable by telling that story about his wife to Phyllis, or did his wife actually die, and if so, did he kill her? What's the deal with that? But surprisingly, he was giving her advice about her relationship with Jack, and he sounds so reasonable. I mean, you gotta admit, the guy is smooth. He's a cult leader, so it makes complete sense. But just the way he was talking to Phyllis, she had an instant trust with him, which, you know, Phyllis should have a BS detector that is just ding, 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 going off like crazy. And instead, she seemed to trust him immediately. And I guess I'm also surprised. I'm surprised by that, but I'm surprised by the fact that she didn't recognize him. Ian Ward was way involved in Nikki's life and in Summer's life, right? Didn't Summer almost get sucked into his cult? So I'm surprised that Phyllis never in all of this time happened across a picture of Ian Ward. It's absolutely, that part of the story doesn't quite connect with me, but who knows? Was she in a coma at the time? I don't know, maybe it's coma related, but it's still a little bit shocking. So I'm not sure entirely how Phyllis is going to connect in with all of this. I just feel like Ian is going to eventually connect in with Sharon, but I don't know. Maybe it's going to go a different direction. I still like it very much. The other element of this that I did not see coming was Joe and his involvement. So Ashley, well, first of all, Joe had a run-in with Phyllis at the athletic club that was not very nice. Everything that Joe went through with Avery, things he did to her, things that happened to him, and Phyllis was kind of caught in the middle, and she has a lot of viciousness directed at Joe, doesn't trust him, has no reason to. It's surprising that she had her BS detector going off like crazy for Joe, but not for Ian. I don't know. Some guy she just stumbled across in the woods. Yeah, it seems perfectly normal. Maybe it was the story about his wife, and maybe that was what that was all about, just gaining trust. Because he even said that. The takeaway from their conversation in the woods was, it's all about trust. So maybe he's good. He is good. You gotta give him that. But anyway, Joe, why is he still in town? If Avery's gone, and he has no family or no connection, the warehouse deal thing fell through, why is he still hanging around? And Phyllis kind of questions that and connects in with Ashley, and they both put their heads together a little bit and kind of come up, well, Ashley kind of comes to the conclusion that she thinks Joe is the one that's involved with the Paragon project. He says he's still working on something, but he doesn't want to say what it is, and he's being very secretive. I mean, what, is it a done deal? Is it a for sure thing that Joe's involved? Because, again, I'm always looking for that red herring. For some reason, I'm not wanting to believe fully, unless I missed something, that Joe's really involved in it. I mean, certainly he would have some motive. He could get revenge on Victor for the whole warehouse deal falling through, and he could get revenge on Phyllis by getting at Jack, and maybe there's a little bit of a paycheck in it for him at the end of the day. I'm more interested in the possible chemistry between Ashley and Joe, although it seems like Y&R wants us to maybe get into Joe and Lily. Joe and Lily have had a couple conversations over the past week that made me think, well, maybe Y&R is trying to set up that as a triangle, especially since Kane's very involved in any other number of other things, and their marriage has been rocky. But I kind of like Ashley and Joe, and at this point I'd almost rather see that than the Ashley, Stitch, Abby triangle, but who knows? You never know what they're gonna do. I'm not sold on the fact that Joe is the mastermind, because if Ian and Gabriel are just partners in this whole thing, and it almost seems like Ian doesn't really know who he was working with as far as, you know, that it was Adam, and I'm not sure that Adam, does he entirely know the whole story about Ian Ward? I don't know. There's something missing still. It feels like we're still missing the big mastermind, and I don't think it's Ian, and I don't think it's Adam, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like it would be Joe. I don't know if he has enough of a motive. I just keep thinking there must be something more going on here, but I haven't figured it out yet. Ashley thinks it's Joe, and I'm perfectly happy to let her cozy up to him to figure it out. Jack, although he says he's giving Ashley free reign at Chabot, he's definitely still working on this Paragon project as his pet project. He even hires on Adam as a special consultant, which is a little bit like having the fox in the hen house. But of course, Jack doesn't know that either, unless he suspects. The awesome thing that happened at the very, very end of Friday's show, Adam is having to reveal to Chelsea that he's taken on this special consultant thing with the role at Chabot, and that he's kind of getting thrown into the thick of the Jack versus Victor feud once again, and Chelsea's not happy about it. The contingency that she had for moving back to Genoa City and fighting for her business and working with him was the fact that they were not going to get involved in Victor. He was not going to get involved with all of the drama that comes along with that and the revenge and all of it. But yet again, every time Chelsea turns around, Adam's lying to her about something or concealing the truth about something. And here he is telling her that he's getting involved as a special consultant for Chabot, working on the Paragon project, and she's not happy about it. She doesn't want this for him, doesn't want it for her, doesn't want it for their family. Adam is on a phone call with Ian Ward. Ian's going, "Are you getting cold feet about our project?" And Adam is trying to reassure him. Chelsea comes up behind him, grabs the phone, assumes he's talking to Jack, and says something to the effect of, "Just leave Adam out of it." And all of a sudden, Gabriel realizes that his cover is blown, that now Chelsea's just basically told somebody his identity who cannot be trusted with the information at all. So at the very end of, I think it was at the very end of Friday's show, unless it was Thursday, we just see the scene of like Ian Ward having hung up the phone, and I think his little wheels are starting to turn as he's realizing who he's really, really working with. So if Ian Ward had even a little bit of ammunition before, he's got an entire arsenal now to work against the entire Newman family. And here, Victor has no one else on his side except for Kevin, which was another interesting revelation this week. Victor calls Kevin into his office and starts to ask him questions about hacking and, you know, what possibly would a hacker do, what would a hacker look like, you know, and he sort of slowly brings Kevin into this mess as well, and gets Kevin to start looking around, offers him a little side job. I loved that. I mean, I was cheering at the screen with the idea of getting Kevin into a hacking job again. I'm kind of sick of him being employed at the GCPD. It doesn't seem to fit his personality, so I like that we're giving Kevin something different and unique and hacker-like to do. Lets him show his personality and be a little snarky. I'm sure, you know, he's going to involve Mariah on the side, and I'm sure they're going to be working together. It's not quite Scooby-Doo gang, so I'm okay with it. But I think that's going to be an interesting duo. And I you know, there was a sort of a warning that Mariah was giving Kevin, that she left it on this note as the week ended, that, you know, Victor told Kevin, "You're working for me, don't you dare reveal any information to Jack Abbott or anybody else." And Kevin's realizing maybe that's not quite ethical, but Mariah warns him, "Trust me, Kevin, you do not want to be on the wrong side of Victor Newman when all this goes down." So I think, you know, we're starting to see the rise up of this mess, this entire mess that's about to blow up. And Kevin and Mariah, I think, are probably going to get caught right in the crosshairs. And as long as they're able to maybe develop a romance in the meantime, I think that's fine with me. Sage has been having these problems with her pregnancy. She was admitted to the hospital last week and she's having these cramps and these stress dreams. And in fact, Stitch told Nick and Sage that he thinks everything that's going on with her pregnancy is actually stress related and that it's psychosomatic. And he, I think, even used that word, psychosomatic, something. I mean, I'm kind of wondering if Sage is at the, I mean, we see her working herself up into a fever pitch about Victor and about her ability to even have this baby, about the baby's paternity. I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see Sage maybe, you know, get all the way to term with this pregnancy and then work herself up into crazy town and think that she's lost the baby, and conveniently at the time when Sharon pulls a switcheroo with the baby, because we all know Sharon thinks she's going to be able to just get pregnant magically right away, and we all know she's not. So I'm kind of thinking Sage is going to think she lost the baby while Sharon goes and takes it, which is so sad. And then there's also this part of me that ever since it dawned on me during last week's Y&R chat that it would make complete sense if Ian Ward was somehow involved in another baby switcheroo. We know that's his specialty. He did it to Mariah. He took Mariah away from Sharon when she had, you know, twins. She had Cassie and Mariah, and she only got to keep Cassie. It was Ian Ward and his lackeys that took Mariah away from Sharon. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe Ian Ward's going to be somehow involved in helping Sharon pull off the baby switch, and certainly stealing Victor's precious, precious grandchild would be yet another feather in Ian's cap. So he has motive. I mean, everybody has motive. Plus, Nick is going to end up becoming indisposed by working on this Paragon project, which is going to leave Sage vulnerable for the whole baby switch thing when it happens. I'm totally fascinated by the idea of Colin Atkinson chasing Esther around the Chancellor Mansion trying to get a little tickle. I loved those flashback scenes, or those different perspective scenes of Colin and Esther. Esther has out of the blue come back onto the scene and told Jill that the entire time she was gone, Colin was actually sexually harassing her pretty much at the mansion, like trying to grope her, grab her, and it's just, I loved Y&R did this thing where they sort of split perspectives and showed us a situation from Esther's perspective where Colin is being really sexually aggressive toward her, and then showing another situation from, or the same situation from Colin's perspective, and he's of course being completely innocent. And we all know probably the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I wanted to throw it out to you guys about whether or not we believe Esther. What is the truth in this situation? Because as soon as Esther makes this accusation to Jill, Jill is immediately like, there's no way that my husband would be hitting on you. You are a desperate woman. You have no attention from men whatsoever, and so you perceive any kind of playfulness or any kind of gesture of kindness as a man wanting to have sex with you or become involved with you. And to a certain extent, Jill's 100% right. How great was it that Jill even kind of brought in ties in Esther's history with men. It's true. If you've been watching the show, if you're a veteran viewer of the show, Esther is constantly falling for guys, and I mean, they've done that storyline like 2 or 3 times where Esther falls for a guy who just wanted to get at Catherine's money, and Esther falls for it hook, line, and sinker every single time. So I mean, Richard Kimball, I want to say, was the last one, or is that right? Is that the right name? I mean, I think Chloe's father was the result of something of that similar situation. So certainly we know that Esther is able to be duped. I mean, I want to believe Esther. I think that she would know. If a guy is groping you, he's groping you. There's there's no way to misinterpret a grope. I mean, something that Colin may have said, maybe she couldn't misinterpret, but I sort of lean toward believing Esther. I mean, for crying out loud, Colin's a liar. We know he's a liar. So, you know, I don't know, but I wanted to throw that out to you guys. about what you think the real truth is. And again, maybe it's somewhere in between those two stories. But Esther is so upset by the fact that this happened, and B, the fact that Jill doesn't believe her and is in fact insulting to her when she brings it up. And Esther's so upset about this that she says, you know, you're gonna have to just choose. Either it's me or Colin. And of course, Jill is gonna choose to believe her husband, which causes Esther to quit. She decides, you know what, fine, I'm leaving the mansion. I don't want to live with you guys. I don't want to be around you guys. She decides to leave behind the mansion, the money, and go off and actually start a life of her own, which I was applauding. I mean, Esther's never been one of my favorite characters at all. And maybe part of the reason was because she was always so subservient. That's what she needed to be, of course. But I never really got into the character of Esther. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be fabulous if she did start her own life? I mean, she has this dramatic and beautiful moment where she's giving this speech saying goodbye to the mansion, saying goodbye to Catherine, and just her indomitable spirit. You got to give that to Esther. She's always positive, and even though this, you know, she kind of got sexually harassed out of her house, I mean, and out of her money, the condition of her staying, no, sorry, the condition of her getting the money from Catherine's estate was that she had to stay on at the mansion, and you know, unfortunately, this situation is kind of forcing her out, and yet here she is saying to Catherine, you know what, maybe it's time that I start my life. I mean, you can't have rainbows without the rain, as tears are falling from her face. I mean, I was so sad for her in that moment, not really knowing, is this the end of Esther? I mean, eventually, you know, like these characters, these legacy characters that we've had on the show are going to end up leaving, and so I wasn't sure, is this the end of Esther, or is this the beginning of a whole new story? And I think maybe the week took a turn toward the end, and we're seeing that maybe it's the beginning of a whole new story. Esther's at the coffee house with her little red pen in the classifieds, getting ready to find a new job, and she's talking to Dylan about the fact that she doesn't have any income, and he decides, of course, to hire her. Dylan is everyone's hero. How could he not? So Dylan decides to hire Esther. It kind of, I suppose, makes sense that she could be working at the coffee house for one heck of a pay cut, I'm sure. There's no way she's making anywhere near what she was making as Mrs. C's maid. But I'm wondering if we're going to see her in and around the coffee house a little bit more, or if that was just sort of an indicator. I don't know if the actress is really going to be on the show that much. But the important thing was the fact that Esther, in her conversation with Dylan, tipped him off about Colin and what a liar he is, and the fact that he blackmailed Devon once, and it sort of makes a light bulb go off in Dylan's head. I mean, Devon had asked Dylan to go down to the Virgin Islands and investigate Hilary's situation on his behalf, and since Dylan wasn't really able to do that because of Sharon, he put it, I think, on the back burner. But as soon as Esther said that, it kind of rang a bell in his head, and I wonder if Dylan's going to do a little investigating on his own about the whole Devon situation. Maybe Dylan's going to be the one to put the final pieces of this puzzle together. Am I the only one that's really happy about the Victoria and Billy reunion? I thought it was so beautiful. I mean, they're totally back together this week. I mean, Nikki and Victor sort of reaffirmed their relationship for the millionth time, and Victoria and Billy reaffirmed their relationship. This past week was the 5-year anniversary of their big wedding, wherein Dad had her arrested on their wedding day. I mean, how humiliating. Doesn't it seem like longer, though? I mean, is that in real time? Has it really been 5 years since Victor had Victoria arrested at her wedding? It's still, like, Y&R, it's and I'm sure you guys have experienced this if you've watched the show for any length of time. I mean, it makes you sort of check in with where you were in your life 5 years ago. I mean, I'm thinking about, I remember where I was when that storyline was developing, and I remember Victoria getting hauled away on her wedding day. It's just like, 5 years already? Oh, it's just so bizarre. But I'm happy that Y&R sort of, it seems like they almost sort of waited to get them back together until they could do that 5-year anniversary thing. And we saw Billy and Victoria have this beautiful lovemaking scene. I'm telling you, Y&R got some new money, and they've been pouring it into sets For the first time, we saw Victoria and Billy's bedroom, and it was just beautiful bed and beautifully lit, and they began to kiss by the window. And I mean, and again, I'm such a fan of Y&R's set decorators, and so it's just such a treat to always see that. I mean, every time you see a sunlight coming through a window on Y&R, don't ever forget that that's someone's specialty. That someone put that lighting there and made it beautiful and made it perfect and made it look like daylight because it's inside on a set. So appreciate the beautiful moments like that. I loved seeing the sunlight coming in on their faces, and there was this beautiful play between shadows and light where you could just see strips of light coming in on their faces and just the silhouettes of their body, and then they slowly moved into the light where you could see them in full light and onto the bedroom, onto the bed. And I think that this would have been the first lovemaking scene for these actors. Am I right? Since the recast of Billy, have we seen a lovemaking scene between him and Victoria? I'm not sure, but I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I'm a big fan of this Billy and Victoria, and I'm happy that they're back together now. I want more. Well, last week I asked you guys to send me emails letting me know who your all-time favorite villain on Y&R is, and I got so many responses. I'm so thrilled. I mean, I think the overwhelming majority of people said that Sheila Carter was their all-time favorite villain, and she certainly has been a reoccurring villain. I mean, we've seen her pop up over the years so many times, and I think we might end up seeing her pop up possibly again within the future. I've been hearing rumors that she's going to be coming back onto the show. But there were also some really surprising answers. There were some good ones, and there were some surprising ones. Several people said that Victor is their all-time favorite villain, and it's just so funny, and I'm sure you know that tickled me to death because I always saw Victor as the hero. I mean, since the day I started watching 1993, Victor was the hero of the story. And in fact, let's see, I think it was Amanda who had said, she thinks that Victor has a lot of the same elements that my all-time favorite bad guy, J.R. Ewing, has. So making kind of a connection between Victor's villainy and J.R. from Dallas. Great pull. I love Dallas. Ooh, that's a good show. And I also enjoyed the reboot. So several people said Victor. I was really surprised. Candida emailed and she said Adam is an all-time favorite villain, which is also sort of surprising. I never would have seen Adam as a hero. I didn't quite think of him as a villain. I think of him kind of as a bad boy, but I like the notion of him actually being one of the villains of the show. Another really great person that said, let's see, who was it? Someone said Kevin was their all-time favorite villain, and I think that's also interesting because you don't really think about Kevin as being a villain right now. I mean, because they've totally revamped him and made him a hero. It was Consuela, I'm looking at my emails right now, who had said that Kevin's the favorite bad guy. He came into the picture because he met Lily online, gave her an STD, and locked Colleen in a freezer as Gina's burned to the ground, which he lit the flame. That's such a great one too, and it's so interesting the way that Y&R will take a villain and completely turn him. I think Gary had mentioned another villain another villain turned good guy, which is Michael Baldwin. It's interesting that Y&R did that with the two brothers. So I thought that Kevin was really a surprising one. Let's see, who else did people say? Actually, Gary, you had said so many good ones. The great one was David Kimball, who played Jill Abbott, Jill Abbott and Nina Webster at a costume ball. He was so bad he ultimately had to have his ear cut off and the word killer etched into his forehead. Finally, he fell into a trash compactor and was chopped into a bloody grizzle, only he's not really dead. That's kind of great. I mean, those are some really good pulls from the past, and there's so many. I mean, I think I saw several people say Ian Ward was one of their favorite villains, and certainly Patty Williams is another great villain. So there's just so many, and I've been kind of asking myself that question this week too. Who's my favorite villain? I mean, the question's been rolling around in my head all week, and it's really hard because there are so many vicious villains. I mean, there are the people who were just brought on to be bad, and then there are the people who are kind of mixtures. And I do tend to like villains who are not just straight up black. I like a little bit of gray area in my villain. And I can't say that this is my all-time favorite villain, but I will throw this one out here because it was one that stuck in my mind as I was thinking about this question throughout the week. I really liked and enjoyed Ricky, Paul's son. He just died only a couple of years ago. I mean, he wasn't on the show very long, and he was on the show very long before he fell to his bloody death. But there was just something about him that I liked. Yeah, he was sexy. I did like that. I can't act like that wasn't probably a part of the puzzle. But again, there's just something about a villain when they've got just a little bit of humanity in there, and where you understand their backstory and you know why they are the way they are, that's attractive to me. And I think that's a good argument for Adam being a villain as well. So yeah, I don't know. I like him. I like the black and white. I like the good versus evil, but I love a good gray area villain too. So great responses. Oh my gosh. Thank you everybody who sent the messages. It's just so interesting to see what everyone would pick, and you know what the definition really of a villain is. So very good, you guys, very astute. And now for the prize. If you didn't catch last week's Y&R chat, part of the whole thing we did was send me an email, let me know who your favorite villain is, and I will enter you into a drawing to win another one of my adorable little bars of handmade soap. So guess what? One of you guys is gonna get this mailed to you from me. It's a handmade little, probably 2-ounce bar of soap scented with apple cinnamon. You're gonna love this. My mom is actually, I gave a bar of this to my mom and she's using it in the shower right now, and she has emailed me several times and said, it's so creamy, I love it, and it smells so good. You're gonna die. You're gonna love it so much, and I can't wait to send it to one of you guys. I've got all of your names in this bowl here, in the old Y&R chat giveaway bowl. I'm kind of stirring them up here, and I'm going to pick one winner, and I will send you this bar. So much anticipation, but I want to say too, don't be disappointed if you don't win, because I will 100%, I'm sure, be sending out some more bars of soap. So don't get discouraged if you don't get it. But make sure you watch all the videos all the way to the end, because I feel like that's the reward. If you can make it all the way to the end of one of these videos, we'll give away a bar of soap for now, at least anyway. So definitely stay tuned for more. So I've got the bowl sufficiently mixed. Let us pick a winner. Okay, I've got the one. All right, the winner is Amanda. Wait, let me get a shot of the winning one. Amanda, and I think it was Amanda, let me check my email here, who had said, yes, she's a podcast listener, and she was choosing Victor Newman as her favorite villain, so that's very appropriate. I'm so excited, Amanda. Yay, congratulations. I will email you and get your address, and I will send you this lovely bar of soap, which I think you will very much enjoy. And again, if you didn't win, please don't get discouraged. It makes me feel bad, because I wish I could send it to everybody, and I'm maybe by the end of all of this I will. So keep listening, keep watching, and believe me, I got more soap. If you've seen my soap closet, you'd think I was a crazy person. So soap for soap fans, we will definitely be continuing. I actually made a couple of cool bars this past weekend that I think you guys might like. So again, stay tuned. There will be more soap. I can't stop smelling that. It's very fragrant of apple cinnamon goodness. Perfect for September. Okay, so you guys, I messed up and got a really late start today, so I wasn't able to gather all of my comments in one spot. So just a couple of quick notes. I'd like to do a quick shout out to Victoria, who left me a wonderful message on ynrchat.com, kind of going through a hard time now, and so I just wanted to send lots of love to Victoria, and I want to say a special happy birthday to Gary. Gary's kind of, I think, become a YNR star. He's like, you know, listening to Gary's voice messages always brightens me up, and I always pluck one of his little gems that he has to say and present it to the group. So if you guys are ever make it to the end of the YNR chat videos, usually you hear a good Gary zinger. So let's all collectively say a huge happy birthday to him. Love you, Gary, and hopefully we'll get you a bar of soap one of these days. Gotta keep it real. Gotta keep it on the up and up, you know. So I unfortunately have to go a little bit early this week, but I think we still got a good hour of YNR chatting in, and I will definitely be back next week, and I will talk about the show. We will definitely read some comments, and you never know, maybe I'll have another bar of soap for soap fans. So everybody have an awesome week. Don't forget to leave me your comments about this week's show. Go to yrchat.com. From there, you can leave a comment on the blog, go to Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. You can leave a voicemail by calling 309-588-4569. If you're listening to the podcast, special hello to my podcast peeps. You can always leave a review on iTunes too. I love hearing from you guys, so don't be shy. And check back with me next week. We'll talk about YNR again then. Okay, you guys, I love you. Have a good one. Bye.